Hello, it's me again, Jacob. Welcome back to Paleo Talks. And today we are covering the Permian. We just did our giant bugs last time. As always, if you missed that last episode, go back and do it. Not that there's spoilers, because I don't think that applies to science. But, it's good if you have a little bit of background on, where we are. So we're right about here in the timeline. We've already done all these. This is part 1 of the Permian. I'm going to break it up into probably 2 parts, maybe 3, probably 2. And then we get into the Triassic, which I'll break up into 2 or 3 parts. The Cretaceous, the Jurassic, which will be at least 3 parts, and the Cretaceous, which is going to be long. Let's just put that. And then we get to after the dinosaurs, and that is going to be like a minimum of like 15 episodes. Because it's going to be, we go through all the, natural and like the wildlife and stuff, and then we hit early humans. And that is a whole different ball game. But enough of what's to come. Let's focus on the here and now, or the, 280 million years ago. I guess the then. Let's focus on what I'm going to be talking about. So the first animal I want to talk to you about is dimetrodon. You've probably never heard of it, but you've definitely seen it. And these, as much as they may look like dinosaurs, they are not. Dinosaurs have not evolved yet. Dinosaurs appear in the Triassic period. So this is the apex predator of the early Permian. It's got the sail on its back, which is probably the first thing you noticed, and no one really knows what it's for. I don't. Some think it was to regulate temperature, some think it was a mating display. No one really knows. But both males and females had it. Maybe it was like, I don't know, maybe the display was like brightly colored on males and not on females. I'm not sure. I wasn't around to see this thing, and I frankly wouldn't like to be, because it was about 11 feet long and weighed somewhere between somewhere around 500 pounds. So very, very large, and it eats you. Definitely eats you. It liked to eat the intestines, which is really weird. Or sorry, not the intestines. Everything but the intestines, because they don't like poop, which nothing eats the intestines except for like hyenas and vultures, because that's kind of where you've got the waste products of the body. So what they do is they actually do eat the intestines, even though I just told you they don't, but they actually shake them out first and shake out all the poop. They shake it all out of the intestines, and then they eat it. So it is very gruesome. Now, what does this thing eat? It eats a Dilophosaurus here, which is about the same size. Ignore that little lizard thing, we'll be getting back to him. It's actually an amphibian, but we'll talk about him later. This is a Dilophosaurus. It's actually a herbivore. It eats plants. And it does look quite a bit like dimetrodon. Again, you can see this is about the size of it. And it's got the sail is very unique. It's got a more of a going this way as opposed to dimetrodon, where it's kind of more like this. It's, as you can see, is more like this as opposed to if it were dimetrodon. Number one, it doesn't start right behind the head. It starts right about there, and it just kind of goes like that. And this one is, as you can see, very different. This animal was an herbivore, small head, big body. And here is our friend, the 1.8 meter tall person, obviously. He is making an appearance in every video. He probably will be in every video. Everything. So, that is our friend, and as I said, we have this amphibian. It is Samoria. It's called Samoria. It's not exactly the largest thing, but it'll do. So the desert environment that was the Permian period wasn't very kind to these amphibians. So this actually, instead of being where it needed to be near water, it actually had scales, and it looked a lot more like a reptile. As you can see, it definitely looks more like a reptile than an amphibian. A lot of the amphibians did, but this is really a lot more reptile-like. And it's really, it's a quasi-reptile. It's a pseudo-reptile. It's got everything that the reptiles need to live permanently on land. It has it, but it's still an amphibian. Which is confusing. Science, people! It's confusing. And this is obviously prey to dimetrodon, and it's also an egg thief. So it will go at things and try to eat the eggs, when the mother dimetrodon or the mother Dilophosaurus isn't around, it'll eat the eggs. I mean, it's a scavenger, it's something that's just trying to eke out a living. Not very large, as you can see, here's the Dilophosaurus, about 11 feet long, so this is only about 2 feet long-ish. Just relative size here. So, a lot of the Permian, after the extinction at the end of the Carboniferous, the Permian is almost all desert with some scrubland, as you can see, with this few, shrubbery and things like that are just kind of around. But food is scarce in the Permian, especially if you're an herbivore. And if you're a carnivore, it's also scarce because it's hard to get. There's not a lot of plants, there's not a lot of herbivores. If there's not a lot of herbivores, there's not a lot of carnivores. So world population of stuff is pretty low at this point. During the early Permian, it's not too bad. But as we get later into the period, it just keeps dropping. And the desert from the center of the continent just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. At this point, it's probably worth mentioning that the Earth is still just one giant continent called Pangea. So